Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast.
What did you say?
Have you eaten any new foods lately?
Like first time foods?
Yeah, first time foods, first time dishes, first time restaurants.
I can't think of anything that no. Why? What have you had lately?
I tried this new taco joint and it was like this kind of taco that I've never had before. I can't even tell you like how it was prepared, but it was just very different than other tacos like the way the meat was prepared.
Oh yeah.
It was very delicious.
Where was this place?
Betsy's it's on 2nd.
Oh.
Yeah. Right nearby, right near my Tenders. Which is a chicken tender place that's also quite good, but which I save for infrequent occasions. It's so big, but oh man, Tenders, that's also a good one.
I didn't even know.
You got to go explore that little pocket of San Rafael.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, and just what was unique about the taco?
It was like really fatty in a good way. Yeah, fatty meat taco. I don't know. It was delicious. It was very tender and like kind of juicy. And like, because normally when you get like a taco with different kinds of meat on it, like the meat tends to be kind of dry. And then it's like, okay, you've got your salsa or whatever, your little sauces. But yeah, this was just a very like...
Sweet.
Oh, it was delicious.
I'm glad that you said that because it reminded me of what I have had recently, which was Carneia SA Fries.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They were wild.
Yeah.
We went to San Diego and I put out a little Instagram poll, like, what should we do while we're in San Diego? What should we eat? Good ideas. Everyone's like, you got to try Carneia SA Fries.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of recommendations. We went to this place called Lolita's, and it's basically like, if you could think about like how nachos would be prepared, but like take out the chips, put French fries at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
And then add like a pretty generous helping of carne asada on top. So it's like fries, carne asada, cheese melted, sour cream, guacamole, pico, like kind of just like in a big pile.
Big mush. Sounds great.
Yeah.
How'd you eat? Would you eat
it's like
hands
a fork.
Or like
no,
a
like
fork?
a fork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, what was also funny about this place was like they have like the little salsa bar.
Yeah.
And there was only two types of salsa there.
Yeah.
So it didn't have like all the different types that some places have, which I always love to try. I
like that too.
But then they had sliced radish, little raw radish.
Yeah.
And then they had this whole bin of scallion, so green onion, but not chopped, like a full like
a full-on onion?
Like a full sprig, like just a giant stalk of
What are you
onion.
supposed to do with that?
That's what we were all wondering. We're like, what the hell
do you
is
just
this
munch
for?
it like a celery
Yes,
stick?
they were like, you just munch it, like people just munch it like a celery
Wow.
stick. I was like...
That's strong.
I was like, we asked the person working there, I was like, do you like that? They're like, oh no, absolutely not. Like, this was like, for like, just truly authentic, like, people that were coming in there wanting like this.
That's hardcore.
It was
just
super
give
hard.
Me the whole sprig.
I know. I was like, Ben, are you gonna try? So like, I think Ben took a bite, but I was like, no,
no,
I
can't do that.
No, I like a little chop.
I like a little
chop scallion.
A little bit.
So I was gonna ask you, what is the most like, if you had to pick a food, that you were gonna eat that was gonna like this is gonna fill me up. I am going to be like, stuffed after I eat this. What is it?
Oh, I mean, well, there are many things that get me to that state, but like the first thing that came to mind is just like a ribeye with potatoes. And
God, yes.
broccoli.
I'm so glad you said
So
that.
satisfying.
My meal is also something with a big heaping pile of potatoes to go with it.
Yeah,
it's like
potato.
It's like it's the classic steakhouse meal,
yes,
or
exactly.
It's Thanksgiving meal with a big old
mashed
like
potato.
a big old dollop, like it's got to be a hefty dollop of mashed potatoes on there. Yeah. Nate?
I mean, I'll join that potato game.
The potato gang.
Potato gang.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love a potato.
And
any kind of potato.
You know, not coincidentally, the food that is listed on the most satiating, you know, like on the satiety list is potatoes, white potatoes. Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Very, very satiating. And the most satiating way to eat a potato is cook it, cool it, and then have it again. Like, and then either reheat it and eat it.
Yeah.
So it's the cooking and the cooling that is known to create these resistant starches. Yep. Which is similar to like a fiber situation, but it is very, very filling.
Yeah.
So a big batch cook of your potatoes at the beginning of the week, cool them down, and then reheat them when you eat.
Get even more potato goodness.
Get more satiety.
Love that.
Which is the lead into this episode.
That's our theme today. If my stomach growls during this episode and it picks up on the microphone, I apologize. But yeah.
So you were the one that proposed that we talk about this.
I did.
What did you were saying, like, no one's talking about this thing. Yeah. And what did you hear?
Well, it really struck me because I was doing some edits on our new protein ebook, which should be out hopefully by the time this podcast drops, I believe.
Yep.
We're really excited about it. It is going to be a mega resource. It is a mega resource for all things protein and high performance foods. And what really struck me as I was doing some edits on the copy and kind of piecing together different sections was I was just thinking about how there are so many ways out there to try to help people lose weight and maintain a good body composition and find their path to a healthy lifestyle that all involve hunger in some way. Like you just have to control for your hunger, whether that is surgery that affects your stomach size, whether that is Ozempic that affects the absorption of your food, pills that try to keep you fuller, like all of these different things. They're just all trying to get you to feel full so that you eat less. And I was just thinking about how beautiful it was that in the high performance foods lists that we have put together and released with this book and have been talking about a lot with the 50-gram protein challenge, it is all about how to maximize that hack, that key to controlling your weight through natural means and through foods that are also delicious.
For real. Yeah. Yeah, I heard a podcast. There was a podcast that I listened to, and hopefully I can find it and link it in the notes before this goes out, but it was between Dr. Gabrielle Lyons and I forget the guest that she had on, but they were in the conversation. They got to, I think the guest said, basically satiety is king. Like that is like in my practice as a physician who's treating people for all kinds of disease and, you know, with a focus around getting people to like get to an optimal weight and build muscle as the key to unwinding most of these diseases. Like we can't ignore the fact that satiety is the king of everything. Humans will eat until they're full.
Yeah.
Because it's not a limited resource anymore. Food is not a limited resource with the qualifier in most Western countries. And for most people, yes, I understand that there are people that don't have access to food, but generally they don't have access to nutritious food. They have access to calories. And in most instances when people have access to unlimited calories within very easeful at all price points, people just keep eating until they're full.
Yeah.
Until the mechanisms in their body kick in and say, stop eating, I'm done. Right. And if you eat 10,000 calories before those internal body mechanisms kick in, or if you eat 2,000 calories before those internal body mechanisms kick in, you know, that's going to determine your weight. How much you weigh and how big you can, how much you consume.
Yeah.
So we're all just trying to sort of hack the fullness game.
Yeah.
If I can, what's the quickest way to getting to feeling full without lots of calories?
Right.
Because we're not really at risk of malnourishment. We're at risk of overconsumption. So that is more true today than it has ever been.
Yeah.
And you mentioned these different diets or different protocols or different therapies that are basically trying to hack this fullness thing. And Ozempic is really popular right now, or this class of drugs that act on a receptor in our body, which slows down gastric emptying, aka how quickly your stomach empties into your small intestine. So if it empties very slowly, your stomach stays full for long periods of time. It's just like kind of like a slow drip. It's sort of like gastric bypass surgery or getting your stomach stapled. People know that as.
Yeah.
You gastric bypass or stomach stapling is when you take a stomach that was maybe the size of both of your fists put together, and then you staple one side of it, or you pinch off one side of it, so now your stomach is only the size of one fist. And so it gets full more quickly. And so those mechanisms in your brain and your body and your hormones that tell you you don't want to eat anymore, they kick in when the stomach gets full. So if now the stomach is half as big, then half as much food tells you, hey, I'm full, stop eating. Ozempic, basically, you still got the same size stomach, but once it's full, the body won't let it empty for very quickly. And so now it just stays full for hours. Right? If you drink a smoothie, you could drink like a giant smoothie and it fills your stomach up.
Yep.
But it's a smoothie. It's already broken down. It's liquid. It doesn't require, the stomach acids to churn it up that much. It'll fill up your stomach, and then within an hour, it's empty again. And now your body's like, I'm hungry,
mm-hmm.
right? So back to the Ozempic thing, it's just keeping that thing full for longer.
Yep.
It's okay. What can we do to keep ourselves full for longer?
Yeah.
And it's like the Ozempic mimicking diet.
Yeah.
What is the most satiating, like slow digesting food possible that will just keep us full? It'd be like boiled, cooled potatoes,
mm-hmm.
a small portion, because that you don't need a lot, chicken breast,
Yep.
a massive amount of chicken breast, and then a bunch of sprigs of asparagus.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Eat that 3 times a day. You are on Ozempic. For real.
Yeah.
So, but, what are the qualities of those,
Exactly.
satiating foods? That's what we're really trying to look at. I have, if you were going to say something, I don't want to interrupt, but I was going to break out this kind of list of 3 things that I think really would impact,
That's what satiety. I was going to ask you to do. Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the 3 areas, I'll just list them out. We're going to look at adequate protein.
Yep.
As a way to reach satiety. We're going to talk about fiber as a way to reach satiety. And then we're going to talk about added sugars as a way to avoid hunger.
Mm.
I may have said that in a way that's making people think they get to eat a lot of sugar. But
Could I throw a couple additional ideas in there?
Of course, absolutely.
One is food volume,
Mm-hmm.
For the physical aspects and the mental aspects.
Mm-hmm.
And another is hydration.
Yep. And then we can talk about food hygiene too.
Great. Perfect.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways that we can tackle this. And then, because we just talked about it recently on some episodes, sleep,
Yes.
and how other areas of your life, as well as movement, start to impact satiety. Okay.
Good one.
So first and foremost is just protein.
Yep.
As you know, the three macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat. More protein in your meal will be more satiating. So if you eat meals that are low in protein, high in carbohydrates and fat, it will take longer for you to feel full. You will ingest more calories before you feel full. This is one of the reasons why people will say, and I don't think it's essential, and it's definitely not something I need people to get like super hyper focused on, but if you sit down to a meal, eat your protein on your plate first. Partly because you get that protein into your system, you start to chew it, you start to digest it first. Now, once that's in your stomach, that starts to spit out stomach acids. Like, this is the work that your stomach has to do, is to break proteins down considerably. So once that starts, you start to get some of these signals, internal signals that, hey, I'm full. And you haven't even touched your carbs and your fats yet on your plate, you know, all your vegetables and things like that. So then the next thing you would eat would be like the most fibrous thing on your plate, like eat the vegetables. Then those go in. That also has to kick off, you know, this process of like your, you know, stomach churning and breaking it down with acids and creating this sort of like, it starts to physically work on the food. And then, you know, you save your starches and some of the other foods for the end, like your, you know, your rice and butter.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. Then I talked about fiber. So fiber is generally, just think of fiber as part of plant material that your body cannot break down completely and absorb. There's soluble and insoluble fiber. It's not super important to understand the difference. You know, one you can't absorb at all. One you can absorb a little bit of, but either way, it's like, you know, if you eat 10 grams of fiber, which is a carbohydrate, you are probably only absorbing, you know, a small fraction of that in terms of calories. The rest of it just stays in your digestive system. And so when fiber is in your digestive system, just like anything in your digestive system, it pulls water into your, you know, digestive tract. Yeah. So you get this combination of fiber and water in there, which is just volume of stuff. It's just, okay, I got 10 grams of fiber and some water came in and I just feel more full. Yep. People will talk about, I feel bloated when I eat too much fiber. And that's because, guess what? There's like a bunch of fluid that's coming into your gut. Now, you can overeat fiber to the point where you feel uncomfortable and somewhat bloated, but your body will start to adapt to this. You just kind of have to like titrate it up. The unfortunate truth is that the average person is wildly under eating the amount of fiber that they should have. You know, there's a kind of a recommended daily, you know, target for each person, which is around 30 grams of fiber. And I think it's like the average person's eating like 15 grams of fiber a day. Yeah. Less, like half or less than half of the, you know, target amount per day. I aim for 60 grams of fiber a day, and I will often get closer to 70, 80, 90 grams of fiber a day. And in our high performance foods resource, our protein ebook, we also have a whole chart of like, these are the top fiber foods that you can include. Yep. But legumes are great. Certain fruits have lots of fiber in them. Apples do, pears do, berries do, you know, things like carrots. That's partly why I like to have a big ass salad every day, or frequently. Avocados have a decent amount of fiber. Even, you know, oats can. Some types of potatoes have more than others, you know, and then you can even start to supplement with some fiber in, you know, fiber supplements, or, you know, there are certain like high fiber tortillas and cereals and things like that you could try. Okay, that's going to be massively satiating. The other thing that's kind of anti-satiating is simple sugars. So added sugars or simple sugars are basically when we take sugar out of the food, out of the matrix of food. So like, sugar comes from a plant, but like there's sugars that are naturally found in fruits and vegetables and dairy. It's all, there's lots of different types of sugars out there. And when they're bound up in the foods that they occur naturally in, that has a different impact on your, on your body when you ingest them than when you just take them straight. So just drinking a bunch of orange juice versus eating oranges, two different physiological responses that happen.
Right.
Simple sugars or sugars that added sugars to foods or sugars that have been taken out of the food matrix, they tend to absorb or digest and absorb very quickly. And that does not give us a lot of feeling of satiety. And unfortunately, that also can do some kind of like almost inverse things to our satiety centers, like our appetite centers. You get a little bit of sugar. It seems like not too long later, you want to have a little bit more sugar.
Yep.
You want to have a little bit more sugar. It's probably why I think having a savory breakfast is such an important thing. It's why, like, when I've gone for periods of time, like on, sort of like sweet breakfasts, like overnight oats, where I put some sweet things in there, I will be like, okay, I think I've had enough of this. I tend to like want more of the sweet thing, and I go back to something savory for breakfast, meat, for breakfast, like kind of thing. So just avoiding getting, here's the number. It's make sure that the added sugars are like less than 5% of your total daily calories.
Yep.
So I'm not saying you should never have sugar, because that's pleasurable, and just find when in the day it may make sense to you, but try and make it less than 5% of your total, consumption.
Great.
Let's go back to yours.
I was thinking about food volume.
Yeah.
And one aspect of that is just from a pure physical standpoint of filling the area of your stomach. And another is that, especially when you are in a psychological state of wanting to lose weight, be in a caloric deficit, maintain weight, there's a real sense of deprivation that can creep in, that can tempt you to just want to rebel against it. And in those situations, I found it extremely helpful to sit down in front of like a giant plate, giant bowl quantity of something where you're like, oh, I get to eat this whole thing. Yeah.
That's my big ass salad at the end of the day.
Big ass salad is so great.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it tastes good to you, it's like, everybody in my family makes just jokes about like, my mom always, if we go over to my parents' house, she makes a salad and then she has like a whole box of lettuce and like cut vegetables and like, the stuff that went into the salad on the side. She's like, okay, and if you want to make more for yourself, like here it is. Because I'll eat the whole bowl. And it's, it's just, again, it is a psychological, satisfying way to be like, I'm eating, a big volume of food that is really making me feel like I'm not deprived.
Yeah.
And we also cover that, we have some great tables in the high performance food lists in our ebook that just show like basically from 1 to 30, like these are the most high volume foods that you can get. And it's essentially like the way to measure that is like for 100 grams, you weigh out 100 grams of a food, how many calories does it have? 100 grams of cucumbers has like 3 calories. So it's like if you eat, if you fill up an entire bowl of cucumbers, if you make yourself a cucumber salad with some lemon juice and a little bit of vinegar and a little bit of olive oil and some salt and pepper and, this and some mustard, like you can eat an entire bowl of like a big bowl. I'm gesturing like massive bowl, and it's like 100 calories.
Yeah. I was looking up how many calories are in an ounce of Lay's potato chips.
Yeah.
To like compare to a 300-gram serving of vegetables, which is about 11 ounces, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yeah, almost exactly.
Yeah. And so 11 ounces of potato chips is 1,750 calories. Yeah.
Yeah. So this concept of food volume is like super important, just to fill you up, get that stretch in your stomach, to send those receptors and those signals to your, brain. Hey, I'm full. I don't need anything. And then again, not providing you with massive amounts of calories.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my other one was just the boring yet underrated, the old hydration.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Especially if you're having fiber, it's like fiber, water, stay hydrated. Those two go together.
Yep.
It's funny, it's like some people will say like, hey, if you feel hungry, go drink a giant glass of water and then check to see if you're hungry. Like maybe your hunger and your thirst mechanisms are kind of getting confused. And I don't know that that's true, but if you do go drink a bunch of water really quickly, that will fill up your stomach and you will get a momentary feeling of satiety, and because it's not going to just like empty out into your small intestine. If too much water goes in your small intestine too quickly, you'll poop your pants and like you'll have issues. So like your body regulates like how quickly that comes out of your stomach. But I'm not so sure that like people are confusing thirst for hunger. I think that is just a tool that people use to go and kind of stretch out your stomach for a minute and kind of fill you up. And then you're like, then an hour later, you're like, oh, actually I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And I have to pee. But I still think it's a valuable thing to do. And if you are, the one thing that can happen, I have experienced is, when you're not hydrating or you haven't been thinking about fluids, your preference for what types of foods you want to eat might be more skewed towards like higher energy dense, calorically dense foods. It's like, the dehydrated, I'm like reaching for the bag of potato chips kind of thing.
Yes.
But it's certainly something to pay attention to and to, I know that it's a balance for me. It's like I want to hydrate, but I do not want to be going to the bathroom all day, and I don't like the feeling of just like empty like water in my
water
gut.
sloshing around.
The water slosh. But I know that if I'm not drinking enough water, that I definitely will tend towards like reaching for more food to get that feeling of satiety.
Yeah.
I had another one on here, which was
food hygiene.
Well, yeah. We'll talk about food hygiene. So food hygiene is how you consume your food.
Yes.
And this is probably the one that's hardest for people because we're just so patterned on how we eat food. But if you truly want to make a big dent in your satiety and really are like, I'm gung-ho on changing my patterns on how much I consume to get full, the speed that you eat and how attentive you are to your food.
Yeah.
So eating without distraction and eating slowly are proven methods to reach satiety with fewer calories. And so the method for this is take a bite, like pick up your fork, take a bite, put your fork down, chew your food. People say, hey, chew it 20 times and then swallow. And don't pick up your fork until you've swallowed that bite of food. Then you pick up your fork again, take another bite, put it down, chew for 20 times, swallow, pick it up, do it again. And slow eaters will generally have a better time, managing their food. I'm a fast eater. My brother's an even faster eater. It's remarkable.
One time I went out with Mizpah and Gita after that comedy show we all went to in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And we went to this like ice cream cookie place, and it's like a giant, you get like a giant like ice cream sandwich made of cookies, and you get to pick like the cookie flavors and the ice cream flavors. And Mizpah got one, and he was such a slow eater that he had to like take it home with him.
Yeah, Mizpah was one of the slowest eaters I've ever met.
Love you, Miz.
He also always had a hard time putting on muscle. Could not eat fast enough. So like all these things we're talking about are like how to get full without eating as much. Yeah. So if you're like a hard gainer, or you're like somebody who's like has a hard time putting on weight, could never put on muscle, you're essentially
shovel that.
You basically have to do the opposite of everything we just said. Reduce fiber, eat a little less protein, more carbs, more sugars, sprinkle dextrose on your rice, like in the morning to make it sweet, to make it more sugary. Eat fast, lots of liquid calories. Like you would do the opposite. And that is how a lot of people who need to bulk and have a hard time eating, they end up needing to do all those strategies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting that those two are the opposite, for those two outcomes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting and logical.
Logical, makes sense.
Okay, the other one is, and this is the 50-gram challenge that we put out there, but it's the idea to, I say it's the bolus and bookend, but, have a big serving of protein first meal of the day before 10 a.m. This is like such a hack. It's like get in a lot of protein early in the day. This will absolutely set you up for a much better, the evidence shows they consume fewer calories, they're less desirable. They desire some less of the craveable, high palatable foods throughout the day.
Yep.
If you do that, so
it works.
And then resistance train, movement, more frequent movement. Movement is an appetite suppressant. Like if I'm hungry, thinking about food too much. Like in the winter, people are just sitting around the house. Weather sucks outside. They're not moving as much. They're just sitting there. I'm bored. I'm gonna go have some food. Like it just happens. So get out, move more. Take 4 10-minute walks a day rather than 1 40-minute walk a day, and those will break up these periods where you're desiring to go eat. And if you do intense exercise will suppress your appetite for a period of time. So, adding that in. During periods of where I'm like trying to lean out, I will go more frequently to the gym. I'll do like 6 days a week of training instead of 4, because that is like just a built-in for these, for the 90 minutes before the workout and the 90 minutes after the workout, like my appetite's going to be a little lower, and that's going to help me just in the satiety game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then sleep, we talked about it recently, but if you are getting a little bit more sleep, if you push your sleep longer, that's fewer hours in the day where you're like thinking about food. But we discussed that if you're well rested, the neurochemistry will make you crave less of the high calorie, hedonic foods kind of thing.
Exactly.
So this is like this is the satiety hack book that we just laid out. But
that's right. There should be a blog post.
Yeah, satiety playbook.
I'll make it one.
Sick. All right. Anything else to add to this? How are we doing on time, Nate? Did we nail it?
32 minutes.
Solid.
On it. Yeah.
Right on.
Cool.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else to add, then be sure you go check out the resource that we just put out, the protein ebook, the 50-gram challenge. We're probably in the middle of a challenge. We'll do another one, but there's lots of resources that you can get your hands on. And we welcome any questions that y'all have. Make sure if you have topics or topics that you'd like to hear us discuss on this podcast, you DM them to us at Satya Khan, at Marcus Philly, over on Instagram. It's the best way to get a hold of us. We'd love to hear from you. And until then, go out and fill yourself up.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Bye.